All right. Good morning again. Let's continue our class for today. So today class is OOP, right? You have heard OOP if you have like learned any other programming language, object oriented programming, right? So in object oriented programming, basically in JavaScript, we try to understand what is inheritance, right? Inheritance and how prototype, okay, play big role in that inheritance, right? So first thing, JavaScript object definition, right? How you define the object. There are different way, okay? There are some method also, right? So object dot create, or there are different methods you can create object. But our goal here is two things, okay? Object, what is object literal, right? So object literal is basically simple object you can write, okay? So you have curly bracket with properties and value, right? With and separate with comma, okay? So this is what object literal. How we can create object literal in the next way, right? So sometimes you can say object initializer, right? Also this name, okay? Remember that name here, object initializer. So simply you have empty object and you can add the value, right? So for example, in this code, if you look at, right, we have person variable, person equal to basically empty object, right? That's curly bracket, that is empty object. If I have to add, if I have to add, right, properties and value inside here, simply I can call this object person dot and the property name, example first name, last name, age, right, eye color. So these are the property we can create inside this object, right? And you have value, equal sign, you assign, right? You assign the value. So that's how we can, that is the second way, right? I mean, we have done this exercise also before, okay? If you want to display something from this object, this object we just added the property and value. If you want to display, right, uh, in this paragraph, let's say in the paragraph, we can use our, the API, right? Document API from the window object. So you call document dot get element by ID demo and inner HTML, and you just pass this value, right? Like person dot first name, so the is and whatever, right? I mean, you can combine the value from this object and display. So this is one way. The point here is this part, right? This is how you can add property to the object. Simple, we have done that before, okay? The new thing now is, what is constructor function, right? Constructor function. So the constructor function, like start with capital letter, right? So see, look at here. Sometimes we need to create many objects of the same type, right? Same type. Same type means what? For example, let's say you are in the school, right? And you want to create object for the student, okay? Or any kind of object that you have to constantly create. Let's say somebody fill out the form, right? And we create the object. Remember in our to do app, you add titles and select a date and then submit, right? And we used to create that curly bracket object with title and date, due date, whatever date, and then what was the next thing? I think there was few more ID, right? So we used to create same, that is called same type of object, okay? Means one function which can create something regularly, right? But over there, that was manual, okay? Sorry guys, we use object literal, right? Simply this format and our variable which had a data, right? We just passed that variable, correct? That was simple enough. So same way we can use constructor function, right, to create many object, same type of object, right? So for example, let's say, but how we do that, right? How we create the uh, constructor function. So it's normal function. Look at this normal function. It's start with capital letter. Okay, this first character, right, will be capital letter. So the person P is a capital letter. So that's how we know, right? This is constructor function. Once you write this function, right, you can pass the your what you call that, the property here, right? Okay, so you can pass this property here like first name, last name, age, I, right? All this these are the variable for that function. And now, so let me copy this, right, and try to explain exactly what is happening, right? How the constructor function is created. So all those things, okay? Some hidden things behind this, right? So that's what I have to explain, because it's not, everything is not clear, and that is my job, right, to do that. So I will create one new folder, right? Oops, OOP maybe, and index.html, learning OOP prototype, right? Something like that. We're gonna add the script.js, right? And connect that, okay, to our HTML. So script here, source dot slash and script. Fine. Now I will explain, right? So this is just a normal function, okay? Now we are creating, like object, right? How you gonna create object out of this function? So let's say my father, right? And you have to use new keyword. When you have constructor function, you have to use new keyword and then the function name, right? That is person. And then pass the value, the argument, right? So this is parameters, like first name, last name, age, I, or variable for this function. For each variable, right, you pass the value. John Doe 50 blue, whatever, right here. So you pass. Now, how, with this, right, how the object is created here? How? Okay. I mean, now my father, right? If I console log here, let's console log my father, okay? My father, and run this code, and just look at here, right? The person constructor function, and it is holding this one object, right? Which has the information about, like, the my father is a property, right? And the John is the value. Last name Doe, age 50, eye color blue, right? So see how we are creating this, you know, property, first name, last name, age, eye color, and then this is the variable, act like a value, right, which is passed from the function. But where this coming from, right? This what is this now? So I will tell you the hidden things behind here, right? When we use new keyword, right, to create the object, new object, okay, like my father is a new object now, because that's what I console log, right? So when you have a new keyword, JavaScript behind the scene, okay, behind the scene, what it does, it says, okay, I will create this equal to empty object here, right? And then I'm going to return this. So these two things gonna happen hidden, like automatic, right? When every time you create the object using new keyword, I will do this. JavaScript say, okay, because this gonna need always, right? You're gonna need one empty object, so that inside that object you're gonna add the property like first name, last name, age, eye color, right? And whatever the value you pass in the function, okay? So John Doe 50 blue. So if this has to happen always, I'm gonna get more smart. You don't have to write, okay? You don't have to write. I will just put it there, right? You assume there is a this object, just assume, right? There is what? This equal to empty object, assume that. That's why we can do this dot first name equal to this, the first, right? This dot last name equal to this last name. This dot age equal to age, right? And eye color equal to this eye, okay? And you return also this object, okay? This object. Now, what happened, right? This happened automatically. You get the idea behind the scene. So that's what this comes from. This, and inside that empty object, you add the property, right? First name, last name is eye color. Done. Now, so when you look at this in your mind, right? You said, okay, there is something called this, like this. There is something, right? And my person function is returning this. And this is what? This is just the object, right? And which object? It refers to the new object, whatever new object. So this will be referring to this variable, my father, right? Now here is the new object again, that is my mother object, right? And my sister and myself, right? See? So this, every time this will create new object from this function, which store value inside here. So if I console log myself, I can see that object, right? Myself. See? Good. Now let's run this code and look at here. Here is Johnny Riley 22, eye color green, right? See? So that this refer to the whatever new object created, right? I hope that is clear enough now. So let's get back. So we understand now, right? What is constructor function? Basically normal function start with capital P, and inside you have a hidden this object, and that this is returned, right? That's why we can add any properties, because what we said, right? If we have to create same kind of object, right, then we can use constructor. Constructor is basically like a machine which will generate the object, right? Every time you need, let's say form, right? The function gonna handle the form data. You can pass first name, last name, age, eye color, right? And there is a constructor function behind the scene, and every time that function will receive the data from the form, and it will generate the new object, right? Automatically. So you submit the form and you get the object, and you can store that object inside your database or array, wherever you have to send, right? One idea, okay? Now, normally in JavaScript, right, when we have even array here, so date array, these are the constructor function. Let's go to the console, right? How you going to create new date, correct? So let's go back here. So if I need to create new date, I will just call the new, right? And I have a constructor built-in function, okay? New date like this, see? And I will get that whatever current time here, right? So now from the new date function, right? And then you can have so many, like so many things attached to this. So look at here, right? So like proto, that is the prototype, right? That is the object which is holding a lot of things inside, right? Get date function, get day, get full year. So if I just want to get full year, right? See? So that is 2025. See that? So the new date will create object, and that object has like so many things attached now, right? But these functions are hidden inside. I mean, it is inside the prototype, okay? So every if you look at the definition here, right? See, every object has prototype attached to it, and that prototype is where all those like a function like get full year, they are stored, right? If we call date dot, prototype, look at here, this prototype, right? And that prototype is the object, and that object has all those functionality built in, right? Like get full year, whatever function we are using. So this is example of date, correct? Now similarly you have string, right? String, remember? So this is the constructor function, and it has prototype, right? Which is object, and in that object, remember, everything we use, right? Everything we use is inside here. So if I have to, what we have done before, right? To uppercase, correct? To uppercase, look at here. So we just call this to uppercase, to lowercase, whatever function we use, right? Is stored inside this prototype, correct? Prototype. So constructor, function, so these are the like the high level constructor, right? Built inside the JavaScript. And what we have done, we just built our own constructor function right here. So we have the, let's say we have this constructor function which can generate many objects by just calling the new keyword and all those things, right? But we look at the constructor function there, right? Like date, string, even array. Let's look at the array, right? Array. And then remember we have the function like push, pop, all those things. So where that functions inside the prototype, right? Inside the prototype object. Okay. So concat, like joining every field, filter function, right? You're gonna find the map function here, pop, push, reduce, right? There are so many functions for the array, correct? So you understand now, right? My question now is, I just created the person, let's say person constructor function, right? How I can add function? Let's say I want to add a function to read the name, first name and last name, right? Because you have the data, you have the object, but you want to read the first name and the last name. How you can do that, right? So the best practice is you can store, even we can add here function. Okay, I mean you can go back, right? You can go back here and then just call it this dot maybe full name, right? Equal to, and you can write a function here. You can do that. Okay, you can just do it, right? And then console log, maybe console.log, right? Let's call it this dot first name plus maybe add string here plus, right? And then this dot last, because this is the object from where I can access first name, last name, right? Fine. Now this full name is inside this object, right? So let's run this code again and see my father and myself has this full name function, right? Run this and see this full name is the property, right? And it is holding the function. Okay, so I can simply, right? I just want to print first name, last name. So my father is an object dot, and I can call the full name, and that is the function, right? So if I do that, it will print John Doe, right? Correct? F5, and see it print John Doe. And because we are not returning anything, we get undefined. That is fine. But we have access to the function. We can build the function, right? So the you can add a functionality also. You have the property like variables, right, to store the data, and you have the function to do something. Now the problem with this function, right? Every time you create new object, you are making the copy of this function. You are making the copy of this function for every object, and that is the bad practice, right? But programmer says you have to be dry, means don't repeat yourself, right? Don't write function which are doing same thing over and over. I mean same thing, right? Don't write many functions which are doing same thing. You just write once and use that. So that is the concept of inheritance and a prototype, right? So how you create prototype now? Basically here, we call the person function, right? Dot prototype dot, and let's say print maybe full name, right? Equal to function. Here, you can console log, right? Let's console log, same thing now. So I will just call it this dot first name plus and this dot last name. Okay, you can add many things, right? Plus maybe space plus whatever property you have on the top, right? This dot, let's call it as. Even if you want to add eye color, that's fine, right? So space plus this dot what, eye color, right? Eye color. Good. So see, we have the now print full name function stored inside the prototype. Now this same function, when you create, right, when you create the object like my father, my mother, sister, right? See, you're not gonna get like this. Okay, see here, you're not gonna get, right? So let's try to run this and see what happened now. So what is the error right now? Oh, okay, here this is the problem now, right? So I cannot, it's not inside my object. Okay, right? I mean, that name is already changed. The function name is print full name now, right? So that function name is not there. So let's run this. First we'll look at our object, right? So our object only have what? Only have this variable. Okay, now if I want to print the full name, what I can do? So I can directly access this function which is stored in prototype. See, I'm not creating the copy of the function, right? This object don't have function. That means I'm not creating the copy. It's in the prototype, and any object when you create from this person constructor function, right, have access to this, function. Okay, so my father dot, and I can see this here, print full name, right? Look at that, and just run this function now, same process, and see John Doe 50 blue, right? See, I'm getting that whatever that function is printing, right? So in the real example, when you do project, right, you're gonna have constructor function to create object, and if there is any functions, you're gonna store it in the prototype. So that's how it's better solution, right? You don't have to make a copy of this function for every object. Okay, here is only few object, but in real world might be millions of object you creating through the website, right? And if you put the function inside this constructor, that means it will make copy million time, and you don't want that, right? You just need one function stored in the prototype of this function, like person, and every new object has access to that. So I hope that is clear. Even if I go back here, right, and I can self dot and print full name, right? I can do that and run again and see Johnny Rally 22 here, right? I get. So this is the example of inheriting the function from prototype. Okay, guys, so that was the good enough to understand prototype and how exactly we are using so many functions, built-in functions, right, for array, string, or date, or whatever. Okay, maybe math, when you call the math constructor, right, dot, and maybe what we can, you can get all the function for math. So we can say what you can, random number. We can generate the random number, right? Okay. So random number is from 0 to between 0 to 1, right? And if you want to have random number, you know, let's say from 0 to 100 or 500, then you just have to multiply with that number, right? So you will get random number between that always. So sometimes we use this random number, right, to generate some kind of like unique key all the time. Okay, what is the next thing now? So I mean, you can see the same examples here, right? Excuse me. So JavaScript object method, right? There are some methods also, okay, which can be like object that create from the whatever object you have before, right? So you can create new objects. You just pass the old object, right? From that one you can generate new object, you know. So you can just read through, right? I mean, most likely you're not going to use these things, but sometimes, you know, if we have used this, right, object dot values or object dot keys, you know, and you pass the object so that you have property or you just need value from that object, right? These are the few functions you can look at. So yeah, we have used this too in our exercise, right? Keys and values. But normally, you know, my goal was to make you understand what is prototype, how you can create function in the prototype, right? That was the main goal. Now, see, in ES6, ECMAScript 2015, right? They, you know, like they come up with a class, right? Here, class keyword. So, you know, in Java, in other programming language, right? There is the concept of class. In object oriented, you create a class, then you're gonna have constructor functions, and then that's how you create a lot of things, right? Whatever the way it works. Okay, in JavaScript we don't have the class concept, but this is just a fancy name, right, to make your code clean. Okay, what exactly happening is, this is, even though we call it class and then the name of the class and curly bracket, and remember we use like, there was this dot whatever, right, name and all those things. Here also is same thing, but you just have to write constructor and then pass the variable, right? Here, parameter, and this dot name equal to name. Okay, that's it. So that is the variable here. So all the variable, right, you put inside here. In this example, let's say we have first name, last name, age, eye color. So any variable you put in the constructor, this function, right, constructor function, you pass here. Okay, all those things. Now the function, if there is any function, right, you just put it here like this, make sound, and so this is more clean way of writing thing, right? That is all. Okay, how you gonna extend? Let's say you have one constructor, one class, right, animal. How you can use this constructor property and this function to another class, right? For example, dog. So you just put class dog, extend animal. So this is the keyword, extends this constructor, right? This class animal. Okay, so you know, in the behind the scene it work like this. Okay, it work like the constructor function, but this is only the fancy way, a better way of writing clean code, right? You can extend that. Okay, and now you can create constructor name and breed, but this name, right, you know, remember we have to do like this dot name, but we are extending animal. So you can take the, you can import this constructor automatically by just typing super and pass the name. When you do super, right, call the parent constructor. Look at this. Who is parent here? The animal, right? Because we are extending animal. Whatever animal has, like whatever property animal has, right? Functions and property, we have access to that here. So the name is matching, right? So you can extend that by just calling the super function, pass it the name. Okay, and then this is the new property, then you can call this dot breed, right? And bark, you are writing new function, so you know, console log and backtick $sign to access, remember, to access the object. Again, we are just using this, right, this dot name. Done. How you going to create the new object? Same process, new, and then call your class name and pass the property right here. And to access the function, object dot make sound, object dot bark, right? And because we extend animal, the dog, anything you create from dog has access to that function also. Make sound, bark is here, you can access your local function also. So that's how the class work. Simple. Look at this, practice in your code, right? So cleaner syntax, extend handles prototype. Look at this, extends, right? Handless, what is a handless prototype linking automatically, right? So this is same constructor function, but just cleaner way to writing. That is what they're saying, right? So either you can use, if you have to, either you can use constructor or you can write in the class way. So when you look at the class also, right, you don't have to get scared. Okay, same thing, you just have to understand how to write it, right? So practice couple of time. That is all I will ask you guys, right? And then once you finish reading, practicing, right, then you can just continue back your whatever pending work, try to work on that, right? Okay guys, so that is all for today class. Tomorrow we're gonna work on the uh, Git and GitHub. Okay, we're gonna look at most of the important syntax. We're gonna create project in GitHub, we're gonna clone it, and then try to just do some simple syntax practice, right? That is for tomorrow class. Thank you very much. Hello.